You're listening to the My Work, My Life show.
Brought to you by Edge Executive Search.
For more information, contact us on
www.edgeXEC.co.za now.
Welcome. We're so excited for this show today. So much happening in the country at the moment. Very happy to have Stefan Enslin here with me today. He's a CA, previously a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers in the Financial Services Division. And he's very, very interested in what's going on and what will happen to jobs, job security, and performance.
Thanks a lot, Janice, for being here. I think there's a lot that happened in the last week, so it's a topic that I'm actually quite looking forward to talking to you about.
So, I think, Steph, where we'd need to start is, how do you think this is going to affect us?
Look, I think a lot has been said over the last week or so, but I think we do need to sketch the background and specifically how it's going to impact on me as an employee as well. Obviously, the first downgrade was by Standard & Poor's, and then Fitch followed. Moody's said that they will hold out for a month to about 2 months and look at the situation in South Africa, but I'm pretty sure that will probably follow as well. So if that happens, I don't think people realize actually the consequences for South Africa once we are rated as junk status, as they might call it. It's going to really impact specifically the way that we do business in South Africa.
Steph, I haven't totally understood everything around the junk status. Put it into terms that I'll understand exactly what that means to me.
Okay, so let's start first of all by saying, if you look at the kind of money that comes into the country as well, the way that companies invest, pension funds invest, etc. Most of these companies have an investment policy document. So basically what they will say is 20% of your investment can be in these kind of assets, 50% in this, 10% in that. So a lot of these companies would actually not even allow companies to invest in junk status countries. So if Moody's downgrades us further, I can tell you now a lot of companies would be forced to exit out of South Africa within 48 hours. So irrespective of the losses that's going to happen. So
are you saying that international businesses would leave South Africa? They would disinvest?
International investment would definitely be reduced in South Africa. And that would also, the problem is South Africa is now becoming more risky. So the ability for government to actually go in the market and issue government bonds to lend money, it's going to be a lot more expensive. You will see as well, it's going to be a long-term effect. We won't feel it immediately, but once it starts hitting, I think the effects are going to be quite adverse.
But what must I as an employee do, and how will it affect me?
I think before I get to that, I think I just need to quickly just explain quickly how it actually will hit you as an employee before we get to that point. I think the first thing that we will see is prices are going to start going up. If prices go up, inflation goes up. Once inflation goes up, interest rates will go up. That's where, once interest rates go up, that's where us as the consumers will actually start feeling that. I think it's probably not even doubtable that unemployment will increase, growth will slow down, and more specifically, the ability for small business to raise cash, to grow those businesses businesses are going to fall under a lot of pressure to get funding. And I think we stand a very good chance of slipping into recession again.
Wow.
Which is a bit problematic this stage, because normally during recession, people hold on to their money, which slows down the economy. Then government would intercept and they would reduce interest rates, and they would reduce taxes to try and get more money into the economy. But if government can't raise funds internationally to fund big government projects, even to pay government salaries, they can't reduce taxes. I believe taxes will actually increase because that's the only other source we're actually going to get money from.
So would you say, we've just had a budget speech recently, they will only increase tax rates in a year?
Look, I think with the new Minister of Finance coming into play, it's one of the areas that's very touchy. They probably wouldn't talk to it right now, but I think come next year we definitely might see a very different picture. I also believe that we're probably going to see a lot of businesses going out of business, which is quite sad, or even downscaling significantly. Retrenchment's going to happen, and that will definitely impact on the job market.
Wow. Okay, so now explain to me, how will this impact me as an employee?
Okay, I think as an employee, we actually need to. I think a lot of people don't see themselves. They see they're getting a salary, and they live from salary to salary. And you actually need to look at yourself as running your own little business. It's exactly like running a business. You get income, you have expenses, and then you have either you have excess money or you have a shortfall at the end of the month. So people need to start looking at their lives as running a little business. And I think what's happening currently, we actually urgently need to understand our little business and what the key drivers in your business would be. There's obviously the income side, which is your salary side, and then there's the expenses side, the money that flows out from that income. I'm going to get back to the income side again a bit later, and salary and how we might look at that and increase that as well. But I think it's important for us to look at the expenses side. You actually need
what would you advise? I mean, I'm terrible with expenses. If there's a pair of shoes, I buy it.
You know what? I think what a lot of people need to do, a lot of people are, especially, I'm an accountant as well, a lot of people are very good at advising other people, but when it comes to yourself, when last did you go and sit down and do a proper budget, but an honest budget?
I haven't.
And I think a lot of people go and they said, oh, I spend so much on fuel, you know what? That's not right. Take your bank statement, go and put your bank statement on an Excel spreadsheet. Every little expense that you spend money on, that's for me is a very good start. Take the previous month and go and put all your expenses go and code it onto Excel. And then you actually need to, you actually need to differentiate between your fixed costs and your variable costs. Because that for me is very important, because if you know that the economy is shrinking and things are going to become more expensive, you need to either increase your income, or if that's not possible, you need to reduce your expenses. So fixed expenses for me, your bond repayment, your rental repayment, insurance, medical aid, you seriously need to look at your life at the moment. I think people need to take a 5-year view into account now, because what companies have actually demonstrated to get out of junk statements is not a quick fix. I
read in the news that it's going to take anything from 2 to 6 years.
If that. My personal view is probably 5 years, 5 years up. But some countries never get out, because if your economic policies don't kick into play now, this program can be prolonged. So if I'm an individual, I would look at my fixed costs first of all. My medical aid. I'm single. I don't have children. Do I really? I'm quite healthy. I go gym. Do I really need to be on a full medical aid? Maybe I need to go onto a hospital plan for a couple of years. I know it's quite scary for people, but those are the kind of things where you actually need to save money. Your insurance, maybe you haven't had a new quote from a company in many years. Get a new quote. Maybe you can get a cheap insurance. Rental. Do I need such a big place? I can actually go smaller.
Are you saying that people should sell their houses?
No, definitely not. I think at this stage, people shouldn't. I think the main thing and we're going to get to that a bit later as well. You shouldn't go into crisis mode now and start and panic and do irresponsible things. Your house as well. I think what people need to do, specifically on your bond, is to do a stress test. And there's a lot of packages or programs on the internet, and the banking sites do that as well. You actually need to, at the moment, take your current repayment on your bond, increase your interest rate by about 1% and then 2% as well, and see what that impact is going to be on your net cash flow at the end of the month. If you can't come out, you seriously need to do stuff to actually fix that situation.
I actually saw in the newspapers yesterday one of the big 4 banks had put a table. I was astounded at the movement for 1 or 2%.
it's actually quite shocking. If you look at a bond of about R1 million, people would be surprised what a big difference it makes. And if you escalate that over 5 years, it's quite a big amount. And for some people, it's actually, this is the difference between losing your house or just living. So it is quite hectic.
So, Steph, are you saying to us, I need to look for a new job that pays more money?
No. I think there are different things to look at. As I said, I think we need to go back, first of all, do that exercise. And I want to hammer on that a little bit as well. Again, you need to be innovative at the moment. You need to, especially on your variable cost. I think on the variable costs, your expenses, you need to actually go again, Janice. I think it's time for us to go back and cut back to the bone. We need to preempt what might happen. Even though it sounds like a doomsday scenario, I would always say rather prepare for the worst and you might be pleasantly surprised. As I said, take that list that you've done. First of all, before you make any harsh decisions, take that list and look at your expenses. We've covered the fixed cost, the variable expenses, petrol, groceries, cell phone. People need to do things differently. I think you need to start driving with people. Start a like a driving club where people drive together. Groceries. People actually need to start looking at prices. I mean, I've always gone to like the most convenient supermarket. I just put in the trolley. I never check prices and things like that. Every bit is actually going to start making a difference now. And I think especially people that have got children, there's certain expenses you can't get away with. So you need to do things a bit more cleverly. I also think that that exercise is extremely important for you to see what your shortfall would be. In a normal business, that's going to show whether I've got profit or whether I have a loss. And I think another thing that people need to do as soon as possible is, specifically if you have debt, you need to repay that debt as quickly as possible. And people say, but how do I do that? I think the first thing that you need to do, you also need to make a list of that debt and look at what is the most expensive debt that I have. Maybe I have a bond. Bond debt is normally quite cheaper. You can see if you can draw down on your bond, consolidate your debt, and settle all like credit card debt and things like that.
I've always believed that if you have a vehicle, you should always pay the vehicle off first.
Again, I think you need to look at the cost of the debt. I mean, a lot of people have got credit card debt. Credit card debt is normally very expensive debt. So those are the debt that I would actually start off quick, because once that's done, you actually have spare funds that you can start putting into your vehicle, and then maybe putting into the capital amount of your home as well. So that for me is very important, that people actually need to make as little debt at the moment and pay off as much debt as they can.
What about people who are actively in the market, being retrenched or currently unemployed? What's the impact on them?
Okay, I think first of all, as I said earlier, I think people don't need to panic at the moment. I think people that are not actively in the market, we look at the guys. People that are actively in the market will look at the guys that actually got a stable job at the moment, what they should do. But I think if you're actively in the market, and even more so if you're unemployed at the moment or know that you're being retrenched, you probably need to look at your career a little bit different. And I think you need to be a bit more flexible. People need to be open to relocate, for instance. I mean, there's a position in Cape Town.
But is it true that you earn less in, for example, Cape Town versus salaries in Joburg?
You might, but for me to stay in the job market is a lot more important to be out of the job market. Once you're out of the job market, we found it's quite difficult to get back into the job market. You can always take a salary cut, or even temp work. I think what we're going to see is as well, a lot of companies are probably going to, instead of hiring people permanently because they're scared of what's going to happen with the economy, they're going to rather go on a contract by contract base or project base. So I think people need to be a little bit more open in that case.
That's interesting, because I found in the past that people are very scared to take contract work, always looking for permanent employment.
I just think in the current economic situation, you need to protect your income as much as possible. So if I look at people that are in a stable position at the moment, that's the other thing. I think the worst that anyone can do is panic, because we actually find that a lot, that people think, oh, I need to settle my debt now, so the best thing for me would be to resign, because then I can get my hands on my retirement funds.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that.
I see it all the time, or people taking retrenchment packages because, they've been with a company for 10 years. But what people don't tell them is, wow, it's going to take you 6 months to get a job.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just that, but because what people do is they take when they're retrenched as well, they take that pension money, they either spend it or they buy something, whatever, and
they take a holiday.
I know, and people realize, that's going to hit you way down the line. In the current economic situation, for you to build up that retirement pot again, I think is going to be very, very difficult. So I think you asked the question earlier to say whether I should now change jobs or what should I do if I want to earn more money. That's definitely an option, but I think people need to do a bit more homework these days. You got to be very careful. I mean, you understand, if we're in a market where there are retrenchments, normally retrenchments are based on a first in, last out basis. So if I'm applying for a position at the moment, I would really do... I would probably do a little bit more soul searching than in the past. I would ask myself, look at my current position. Maybe, am I up for promotion? When would that promotion be? What would that promotion be like? Are we in for bonuses? Is my 13th check month in June? Is it advisable for me to leave now, for instance? And when is the next increase date? So I also believe if you're looking at new employment, Janice, I would do a lot more research than in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I would advise that you look at the stability of the companies.
I think it's very important, but even even stability, there are the financial figures, but I think you actually need to go a bit further and look at, for instance, who's managing those companies.
Yes. Agreed.
Go on LinkedIn, look at the background of those people. Are they stable people managing those companies?
Agreed. I mean, do you think there's other ways to boost your income?
Look, I believe, we all have different talents, and if you look at certain households as well, even in households, people have little projects, they have little things like doing business out of their home, doing extra work. I think now is the ideal time to start dusting that off and actually look at your other talents as well. If you have a little home industry business, now is the perfect time to actually see if you can start increasing your household income, because not only, I think, if you look at the negativity in the market and people feel negative at work or whatever, that's always something positive to fall back onto. So I would definitely look at that. Even if you, and I know a lot of employers don't allow for that, but you got to get permission. But even if you do contract work in the evening or whatever, you go to your employer and you talk to them and get their permission. But South Africa, we've always been in this habit of, we kind of have one job. I mean, if you look at look at the US, some people have 2 to 3 jobs, and I really think we mustn't shy away from things like that.
Interesting. Do you think that one income households are going to make it?
Look, I definitely believe households will make it, but they will have to do things differently. I think we've been spoiled. We've been having quite a good life, and I do think people need to start now before this curve hits us, because I promise you, Janice, it's going to hit us, and we're not seeing it now. People are saying, yeah, but the markets are going up, etc. I'm telling you now, once people are starting to disinvest and taking money out, the markets are going to go down. So, and I also believe if you set yourself up right now, okay, and you've settled your debt and you're in a position that you maybe be able to save, it'll be a perfect time to get into the markets when the markets are at a low ratio, and even to save money as interest rates go up. Obviously, it's more expensive to borrow money, but it's also more lucrative if you have extra cash to invest.
I've got some tweets coming through on Janice Wagner, Edge Exec. Patience wants to know, as entrepreneurs, what advice can you give to employees who want to earn extra income?
Look, I think first of all, look at what your passion is. I think we've talked about passion in previous shows before. Look at what your passion is. Once you enjoy and love something that you're doing, it's probably easier to create a business around that. But I think, Janice, you can also add, I mean, you probably find something that's in the market there and start building your brand and going out and building a market.
Exactly. Tara says, I've been saving to start my own business. Is this the right time to leave my permanent job? For me, I'm going to say no, but then I'm conservative. I think you first need to know exactly what you want to do, start building a brand before you just leave a job as it stands right now.
I personally, Tara, believe that you should see if you can't do it on a part-time basis before you leave the stability of a job. Because unfortunately, having run our own businesses as well, when times are tough, it's quite an emotional strain on any person. And if the economy is bad as well, I think it just escalates that.
Very interesting question coming through on my Twitter account. What are the signs I can look out for to know if my company has started retrenching?
Look, retrenching, luckily with the South African labour law, you will actually know that companies are retrenching because there's procedures that need to be followed. So people would be informed way in advance. Letters would be said that the company is looking into it and they're looking at alternative ways of doing it. So I think you would definitely be warned beforehand. But I think that's also then, before you make a rash decision and just jump at the first thing and get off and get out, you also need to look at why those decisions are made. So maybe if they're closing a branch that doesn't affect you, there might be a very positive side to that where the business would be a lot more lean and going forward. So I think it would be irrational then to move immediately when you hear the rumors.
I mean, Steph, what's your take on retrenchment packages?
Look, retrenchment packages, if you've been at a company for many, many years, the retrenchment packages can be quite substantial. But what we find is a lot of people get into a comfort zone once they receive a retrenchment package,
Yes.
and they would sit at home for a year, and only when the money is really starting to run short, they would jump into action. And I think it's the biggest mistake you can make at the moment.
I mean, I'm obviously totally against jumping without having any idea of what you're doing. I mean, I come across a lot of candidates every day that have taken a retrenchment package and they feel they have a lot of time to find a new role. The first thing they do is go on holiday. I'm like, as soon as you get that retrenchment package, start looking for a new job. I mean, Steph, we have different ideas here, but you've been retrenched. You need to find a job. How do you start?
Look, I think, that's where I also believe you need to work through recruitment agencies. I mean, you obviously got to do your side of it. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. Make sure your CV is placed at the right place. Companies, do your research, see what's advertised, what's out there. But I believe you need to start building a relationship with a good recruitment agency because they're quite knowledgeable and they would give you advice on where to go, what the market is doing, and if you have a brilliant CV, let them market you. I think that's something that's actually happening more and more at the moment.
I mean, I'm big on LinkedIn. I believe 80% of recruitment's happening through LinkedIn at the moment. I believe your LinkedIn page is your starting point. If you're looking for a role, make sure that word is in your LinkedIn profile. I'm big on what does the picture look like. Make sure it's a professional photo, and all of your achievements are there. Check your spelling. That's my other big thing. And check the job portals.
Yeah. Look, and definitely, you know what? And this country is still a country of connections. I mean, you can take it in any way you want that I say it now, but if you look in the political scene, I believe that as well. And it's very much so even for us as workers. So grow your network.
Oh, yes. I believe a lot of placements will happen through your own relationships without even a recruitment company.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I think we are in for some rough times, but I do see light at the end of the tunnel. Because I mean, if we change our habits now, how we live, how we spend, imagine once the economy picks up again, you
Yes.
know, in what a position you would actually be.
I mean, on that, I actually returned from India on Sunday, but so interesting, the economy, to check that. They make everything themselves. They use everything themselves. Maybe that's where South Africa is heading towards. Maybe this is going to be the growth of SME.
I believe we're going to see a lot of change. We're going to see a lot of initiatives coming out. I really believe things are going to be done very different. And, you know, we got to stick into this together. There's nowhere for us to go. I mean, a lot of people think, shall I go overseas now? The world economy is not as as strong as people think it to be. So for me, it's going to be quite interesting to see how this will pan out. But I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of nervous employees out there.
Interesting question coming from Afro Miyaki on the Twitter line. Should we be wary of debt counselors for those who can't cope with interest rate increases? Could they be saving grace?
I think, again, do your homework. I believe if you find a reputable debt counselor and you're at a point where you're actually completely lost and you don't know what to do anymore, I believe it's the best thing that you can actually do to restructure your debt. Because, you know what, at the end of the day, what people don't realize is not just one person. You have a whole family out there. So you need to do the best for these people. And at this stage, it's just to survive.
And then Chiba, is it wise to approach companies directly even if they have not advertised positions?
Again, you know what? I always say if you believe your brand is strong enough, why not? I think we need to do things different. As I said earlier, be bold. You need to grow that brand. Specifically in a market where unemployment is high, you need to start push yourself. It's going to be, you got to do things very differently.
I mean, I'm all about brand.
Yeah.
I think that I think business in South Africa is done based on relationships. But you need to nurture those relationships and don't believe every relationship that you have is going to bring in cash.
Yeah.
And it's a long process.
Yeah. Look, and I think currently as well, the market is nervous, and that will probably flow through to employers. So employers are going to be nervous, and they're going to be rethinking big projects. They're going to rethinking their hiring policies. So it's definitely, as Janice says, you need to work on your brand. You need to market yourself very differently.
Yes. I mean, I know this sounds like a lot of doom and gloom. From my perspective, I'm all about entrepreneurship. That's my most exciting topic. I'm hoping that this is going to be what ignites entrepreneurship in South Africa. It'll be in my world, it's expensive. It will become expensive to import. So a lot of stuff will need to be made in South Africa, hoping that will give SMEs a chance in the market. What's your take?
No, I fully agree. But I think it's probably going to, as I said, force people to do things differently. But people also need to realize that it is going to be a lot tougher just to raise capital in the short term. So, from an SME point of view, I think if you decide that you want to do that, go that way, make sure that you have a little pot away.
Yeah.
Just a bit of money to keep you going for 6 months or so. I know it's not always possible, but it's just, I think we're in rocky waters. We don't know where this is actually going to go.
Yes. No, I'm totally with you. I don't believe you should jump from a job to become an SME.
Yeah.
I just think that SMEs that are in practice at the moment, maybe it's going to be a kickstart for us. But 100% agree. You can't start a business unless you know what your expenses on a monthly basis. Have you got money to last for six months to at least a year?
And if you think about, the last downgrade we had was way back in the like 1990 or something. The majority of us weren't even in the working market. So this is very.
No, you were, Steph.
Definitely not yet. It's very unknown territory for us. So I think we're all scared. And I just, one thing that for me that I always believed in is power is knowledge.
Yes.
So knowledge is power. So knowledge is power in the sense that go and sit down and do that reality check of that budget. I know it's probably going to give you the biggest fear of your life, but then you can start making informed decisions.
Yes. Okay. Well, this has been an interesting discussion. I think we could actually continue with this discussion for quite some time. I'm interested to see what happens in the market over the next year. I think a lot of impact's only going to be in the next couple of months. We're not going to feel it tomorrow. Yes. And
I also think we're probably going to see it by sector. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see which sectors are impacted first, and where that goes from there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me on My Work, My Life today.
Thanks a lot, Janice.
You have been listening to the My Work, My Life show on brandlife.co.za.
Proudly brought to you by Edge Executive Search.
Visit Edge Executive Search on
www.edgexec.co.za now
for more opportunities, events, and our latest podcasts.